The Mckenzie River is home waters to wild Chinook salmon,
some freshwater cephalopods,
to people, to history, to rich culture.
It's quiet, it's peaceful. The water is spectacularly clear. The big old trees.
The Mckenzie smooth ape.
The beautiful mossy, gnarled stumps.
The secret society of fly tyers and Jim Sens encourage fly anglers to
come here to Oregon. We certainly cared about the health of our rivers
and protecting the endangered freshwater octopus.
Octopi.
It was sort of a love affair.
Water coming in from its most pure source, right out of the earth and disappearing right into the earth. This stuff percolated down through these lava rocks is probably as pure water, purer than it would be falling from the air.
I think that the Mckenzie River is really special. I imagine
Jim's
relationship
with fly tying
started early when he was
thinking about piercing his
really getting his imagination inspired by the struggle of man with nature. This stretch of the river, it's spectacular. Where do we go to
contemplate and study the legend of the smooth ape?
We go to our favorite river, and we can sit there and listen to the song of the river, and it feeds our soul. It's part of preserving the mystery of nature. Embrace your river, adopt your river, get to know your river. It's what keeps you alive.
Ladies and gentlemen, how do?
Ladies and gentlemen, how do?
Hello, all my friends across the globe. It's me, Matt, delivering another episode of the Secret Society of Fly Tyers. I did it. I've been crowned king of Apple's crafting or leisure/crafts podcasting subgenre in the United States of America. It may have only been for one day, and I may have not noticed until a week after it happened, but it happened. I told you I would lay waste to the digital audio crochet world. Episode 6 with Alvin Dito helped me blitz right through shows that were standing in my way, like Yarniacs, Sew and Tell, Inappropriate Quilters, The Tipsy Sewists, and Not Your Granny's Quilt Show. I lie a lot on this program, but all those names are real. Listen, I might joke about my podcasting chart rivals, but we're in the digital talk show trenches together, ladies. I salute you. And I will crush you without mercy.
Enemy deserve no mercy.
Actually, I'll have most likely moved my program into the sports and wilderness category by the time this episode airs to give the quilters back their charts. I made my joke point. Now I want to scooch my way into the room where all the other fishing podcasts are. This dumb interview show about people that dedicate their lives to tying materials onto hooks to imitate fish food is moving on up. I'm trying to manifest my own reality, okay? I feel like the Camp Firewood Beekeeper radio kid from Wet Hot American Summer most of the time I'm talking into this mic.
I've got my drones working hard on a breakfast time rock live.
I need to evolve into the occult-obsessed outdoors influencer I was born to be. I don't think that's what I really want to be. I just want to make people laugh and not take this sport or hobby or whatever so seriously all the time. I want to meet interesting people. I want to go on adventures in the wild and mess around with slimy-ass fish and holler and high-five my friends. If I don't encounter any fish, I want to make a sweet cast 1 out of every 10 attempts and watch cool birds at least. So it's the 9th episode, and I'm excited about it for a couple reasons. Number one,
I live in my mama house.
I'm interviewing a guy I've been watching tie flies online for a long time, Jim Sens. I love his tying style, and he's a tattooed freak like me. I think we're going to hit it off. Number 2,
I live in my mama house.
I'm focusing on the Mckenzie River just outside of Eugene, Oregon. Check this out. Not only have I never fished the Mckenzie, but I don't think I've even heard of it until I started trading DMs with Jim. So we're going to learn about it together. You and me, baby. Baby. You and me, baby. Baby. You and me, baby, baby.
I want my baby back.
Chili's baby back rib.
Baby. Or maybe I'm a big drooling idiot and you people already know about the Mckenzie River and love to fish it and are about to change the channel on your podcast stereo. Please don't do that. I'm here for you, wherever you are on God's green internet. I did my usual research, and I'd bet Jim and I have a few nuggets for you, whether the Mckenzie is your home water or this is your introduction. Before I really get into this, I gotta say that I almost feel like I forgot how to podcast already, and I've only released 8 episodes before today. I'm hitting the wrong buttons and mumbling my words like a fool. I took some time off from writing, recording, editing, and stealing samples from YouTube because I felt so confident in the backlog of episodes I'd piled up. The next thing I knew, my confidence turned into laziness, and my pile of episodes was gone.
It's all gone.
I'll do my best to get my head back into the game and continue to provide embellished or purposely incorrect information while citing fake sources, just like I've been doing from the get-go. It's a talent that I've carefully curated. Alright, the Mckenzie River. It's an 86-mile-long tributary of the Willamette in the state of Oregon. It originates from just above its outflow from Clear Lake on the western slope of the Cascade Mountains. It says here on bestfishinginamerica.com that the Mckenzie is easily among the most popular fishing streams in the Willamette Valley, and that it has abundant wild and hatchery trout, runs of both spring Chinook salmon and summer steelhead, and angling opportunities all year. Red-side rainbows being the big draw. You might even hook into a cutthroat or a bull trout. The Mckenzie also has a type of drift boat named after it. It's true. In the 1920s, Prince Helfrich and Leroy Pruitt crafted the famous Mckenzie River drift boat. They refined an open water dory for improved maneuvering in river rapids, launching a design that is still used today. The Mckenzie River drift boat is recognized by its wide, flat bottom, flared sides, flat bow, and pointed stern, just like your mom. Score 1 for the Mckenzie. There aren't a ton of rivers with boats named after them, and made specifically for them. Jim Sens told me the Mckenzie was special, and I'm already starting to believe him. Now, with a river being fairly close to some densely populated areas, you would expect access to be plentiful and easy. That doesn't appear to be the case. A lot of the Mckenzie runs through private property, and bank access can be tough to come by. So, that drift boat I mentioned may be the key here. Another reason bank access is scarce is due to designated conservation areas along the upper stretches of the river. There may be limited access along the Mckenzie River Trail, but a large percentage of it is federally protected due to the locally celebrated freshwater octopus that can be found in the rocky shallows that stretch along the upper Mckenzie from Tamalich Falls through Beaver Marsh and up to Ice Cap Spring. Originally planted there by early settlers as a hopeful food source, the species unexpectedly thrived due to ideal water temps and pH levels. There are stories of anglers tying octopus flies that resembled a rat king of 8 San Juan worms all mushed up and used to entice the hungry trout. You can even attend the Mckenzie Octopus Festival held annually every spring. The upper Mckenzie looks like some pretty scenic terrain from behind my computer screen, just like most places where trout swim. Beautiful forested canyons and clear water await to devastate me with steelhead fishing reality until I finally find my unicorn and everything is okay again for a brief moment in this crumbling multi-dimensional simulation we pretend is our lives. It looks like most of the steelhead are caught below the Leeburg Dam in the lower section of the river, although numbers of them are said to cross Leeburg and find their way into the upper river. The first summer fish usually tend to show up in early spring, with the peak of the run in late May through June. Count me in. The upper river is mostly pocket water. The lower river settles down some, and downstream of Hayden Bridge is wider, flatter, and slower. Like your, never mind. You folks in Eugene must be pretty happy with yourselves. This beautiful river sounds like it has a little bit of everything for us fly anglers, including plentiful opportunities for a wide variety of fish. It's not far from town either. What flies do people use on the Mckenzie? I want to talk to Jim about the real details, but it's looking like the usual trout flies are in the picture. Blue-winged olives, pheasant tails, caddis, and the typical streamers. Bring a graboid leech or two.
Ah, the leech.
Jim twists up some awesome patterns that work for him on his home river, and hopefully he'll share some secrets with us. Speaking of secrets, is Eugene trying to hide the fact that the whole city is basically made of haunted graveyards? Come on already. There's Looper Pioneer Cemetery, Eugene Pioneer Cemetery, Eugene Masonic Cemetery. You might say that Eugene is probably bigger in size than 3 old-timey cemeteries, but I only named 3 of them. There are at least 100 more. Pretty spooky. Do I even need to get into Bigfoot? It's Southern Oregon. Of course Bigfoot is out there. Even weirder, the part of Oregon that the Mckenzie flows through has their own unique slice of Bigfoot lore. In the late 1970s, a local biologist named Dr. Schneider Webb shocked the town of Nimrod, Oregon with his claims of an encounter with a completely hairless, bipedal creature that you might call a naked Bigfoot, but that would be lazy and lewd. Other sightings soon popped up, and the beast was quickly dubbed by the townfolk as the Mckenzie Smooth Ape. Some of the more outlandish stories about the Mckenzie Smooth Ape go as far as claiming that Dr. Webb fell in love with the creature, eventually finding a loophole in maritime law that allowed him to legally marry the smooth ape. That's obviously a crazy old myth. It was said that sightings often shocked people even more than the usual Sasquatch stories, mostly due to the cartoonishly large sexual organs that both male and female smooth apes were said to have. Witnessing a hairless bipedal missing link was probably enough, but the over-the-top pornographic nature of these weird ape things shocked everyone enough to pack up and leave Nimrod for good. It still sits empty to this day, with a census-confirmed population of 0. Go check out the Welcome to Nimrod sign like everyone else that passes through and you'll see what I mean. Now that I've given you all the main historical facts about the Mckenzie River, I'm going to see what Jim has to add. He doesn't know it, but he was an early motivator for me as a fly tyer, and when he's showing you how to tie a fly in a video, he has a nonchalant way of walking you through steps that worked for me and made me try things I avoided because they sounded too difficult. Jim Sens is a fly tyer and angler in the Pacific Northwest. He's a piercer. He lives on a blueberry farm. He's covered in tattoos from the top of his head to the tips of his fingers. He's a dad. He's a newlywed. He inspires me to be creative with my fly tying, and he's my guest for today's episode about the Mckenzie River. Here's my chat with Jim Sens.
But I got the fly fishing and fly tying just because I needed something outside of the body modification world to like make me more grounded and healthy again.
Okay.
And this is what I found. So
that's cool, man. Yeah. That's part of really, I mean, what you're just talking about is part of what attracted me to you and your videos is, you know, seeing somebody kind of like me on the other side. I'm like, okay, all right. Like, you know, there's other folks like me doing this stuff too. And, yeah,
that's like when I looked at you, I was like, oh, he's an old punk rocker like me. Oh, this makes me feel good.
It's true. It's true, man. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Jim. I appreciate you taking the time. You're slightly mysterious. Like outside of tying up bugs, I wasn't able to find a whole lot of information on you online. And as a talk show host, it's my job to creep a little bit before I interview you.
Totally.
And I know that you recently got married. Congratulations.
Thanks.
I know you're a dad to both human and dog. I know you pierce holes in human and fish.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to learning more, dude. Is this your first podcast interview?
Yeah. Well, I've done other ones for the piercing community part of, because I've been doing this for like 25 years. So I've done some podcasts for that type of stuff, but that it's funny how the two worlds don't really cross because they're both such small subcultures. When you actually when you're inside them, it feels huge. But when you look at them from the outside, both piercing and fly fishing are just like subgenres of other things.
Yeah.
It's just, they're all such small, tight communities. So
super niche. Yeah. And tying even more of a niche in fly fishing in general, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So listeners can't see you as this is just audio. And if they aren't familiar, I'll link to some of your tying videos in the show notes, but you're covered in tattoos and pierced. And how did that whole journey start? You know, the body modification thing.
It started when I turned 18. I got my first piercing and really liked it. And like a year later, I got 2 more piercings. And after that, I got clean off of drugs. And I was living in Minnesota. I was born and raised in Minnesota. So that's kind of where the fishing thing came from, because fishing, there's 10,000 there's actually like 11,000 some odd lakes in Minnesota. So fishing is just part of the deal in Minnesota. And when I got clean, I left Minnesota and did like a road trip to Vegas. And that was the first place I saw a palm tree. And then I went to Ventura, California, got stranded there until I got a one-way ticket to move to Oahu. And I bummed around Oahu for a couple months and got a job at a piercing studio, just selling jewelry and being a counter person. And the person that was the piercer at the time, she was going to leave and open her own studio. So she kind of taught me how to do things, but then the owner was really heavy into drugs and he just wasn't a very good person at the time. So we both decided to leave. That's where I met my daughter's mom. And we picked up and moved to Minnesota, and moved back to Minnesota, and I started piercing in a shop then. And it's just kind of been 25 years of the same thing. I've pierced all over the country and wandered all over the place on this crazy ride that I'm on.
Yeah, it sounds like a journey, dude.
Yeah,
for sure. I was going to ask you, if you were a piercer first before, fishing and tying and stuff like that. I mean, those things go together more than I thought, just because of the sharp stuff involved.
Right.
But,
I like to tell my clients when I'm piercing them, they're like, "Oh, what are you going to do on your days off?" I was like, "Well, if I'm not at work putting holes in humans, I'm out trying to put holes in fish."
It's such a good dad joke, dude.
Right? They're always like, "Oh, you must be really good at it." I'm like, "No, I'm way better at putting holes in you."
Is there like if somebody comes into the shop, like you're still actively piercing, right? That's part of your Is there some, like, a piercing that somebody has you want done when they come to the shop and you're just like, oh God, why today? Like, why do I don't want to do this?
It's not really the piercing at this point in my life. It's the person, because people can be really weird in any customer service job. But in our world, people can not so much as anymore as it was back in the day, but it used to be a lot more like deviants that would be into piercing. So you'd have to deal with a lot more intimacy that you were comfortable with until you got some thick skin under your belt.
Yeah, it's way more mainstream.
Yeah, totally. Now it's just like kids and stuff that I put holes in, but every once in a while you'll still run across an old timer that's a little weird.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I have a bunch of tattoos too, and I've always been intrigued by the art forms, and that you're participating in like a really kind of significant moment for that person, whether it's piercing or a tattoo. Like, that's a big part of their life, at least for them. I mean, they might regret it or something down the line or whatever, but it's a big moment for them at that time. I think that's pretty cool.
I really like that I get to give people a positive experience through something that you generally try to avoid in life, which is physical discomfort.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do you regret any of your tattoos? Do you have any bad ones? Like, I've got plenty of bad ones.
Yeah, my daughter and my wife could both attest to the stupid tattoos that I have on my body.
Oh man, but those over the years have become like my most favorite ones. Like, they're the ones I talk about the most, for sure. And I don't know.
How people get tattoos for like a meaning. I don't think that was ever part of my idea. Yeah, I have some tattoos that have like a meaningful thing, but most of the time it was just a funny thing at that moment that some tattoo artist drew up. I was like, let's do it. Like, totally. I have a portrait of me as a zombie on my leg. I have a chicken hanging from a noose below my knee, so it's like a cock that hangs below your knee. Like,
that's good.
Like, I've got. There's so many.
I'm with you, dude. I'm nothing against the big, important, significant, meaningful tattoos that anyone wants to get.
Totally. That just was the reason I got tattooed.
Yeah, most of mine have been the same kind of thing. It's like I got my buddy Phil's face tattooed on my elbow because he dared me to, and I came into it the next day at work.
A buddy of mine that I used to play video games with, I never met him in real life, but he used to kill me all the time in like their old school Call of Duty games.
Yeah.
And he used to scream, "Damn you, Kevin," all the time. And I was like, I'm gonna get that tattooed on me.
Oh,
he's
man,
like, no,
good.
Won't. So I got it tattooed on me, and I sent him a picture of it. He didn't believe me. So I waited a month and sent him like a healed picture of it, and then he believed me that I got Kevin tattooed on my leg.
I love it, dude. Yeah, I mean, it's either just something I thought would look cool, like a piece of art that I liked, or it's it's something funny, like a kind of an inside joke or whatever.
Yep.
That's cool. We have that in common, man. I don't regret any now, but I do think that, like, maybe they should raise the age to like 25 or 25 or something. Like, I made some decisions I definitely would have thought twice about a few years later.
I feel like I've seen a lot of people make poor decisions in their young years and being in the body modification world. But one way or another, you're gonna make dumb mistakes when you're young. That's what being young is all about.
Yeah.
So when we get older, those dumb mistakes help shape us into the person that we are at whatever point that is. So it's just part of growing up.
Yeah. I thought recently about, the moment in time if one of my kids wants to get a tattoo at 18, and I'm like, just picturing the scenario, like I wouldn't be against it, if they wanted to do it, but it's like I see what I got my first one when I was 16. I don't regret it, like I said, but I think there'd definitely be some other decisions made if I waited.
One of the first tattoos I got, I was 16, and a buddy of mine and I were both on acid at the time. And he did it like stick and poke with like big pen.
Yeah, I got some of those. Yeah.
It's like those, but no age limit would have deterred me from doing that terrible life choice. You know what I mean?
No.
And it's on my back, so I never have to look at it. Like my pets look at it way more often than I do.
I was gonna ask. I've covered up most of those over the years. I might have one or two poking out somewhere, but yeah, I guess you don't have to look at yours. You wouldn't have to cover it up, huh?
Most of this, I'm sure you feel the same way. When you have a lot of tattoos, they all kind of just blend into one, and every once in a while you'll like look at one and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that one now.
Right. I know. It's funny for a question you get asked a lot as somebody with tattoos. And I don't have a ton. They always ask, like, how many do you have?
Mm-hmm.
It's always a common
hours of getting tattooed instead, because I'm just worked on one.
I have to think hard to count. But what about your ears? Does your dog go after your gauged ears?
No. Not at all. Not even a little bit.
Really? I heard that's a thing.
Yeah, she likes licking my wife's ears more than mine. She doesn't really lick my ears that much. She's actually sleeping on the floor over there right now.
My dog eats my ears just because I don't have gauged up ears. She wants to eat them.
Just a thing. Yeah, maybe mine don't taste as good as my wife's. I don't know.
So how did you get into fly tying? I understand you have some history with my first guest, Jonathan Farmer.
Oh yeah, I used to tie for him for a little bit with a couple of other guys. I got into it. Obviously, it was like, oh, I learned to fly fish, and then it was like that lie of we can save money by tying our own flies.
Yeah.
And that's not really. Now I have more fly tying materials than most fly shops. Yeah, so I got into fly fishing. I was self-taught. I was by myself primarily the whole time, and slowly but surely I started meeting people that were into fly fishing and fly tying, and they just helped me figure things out. I really sucked at fly tying and to start out, like everybody does, but like Caddisfly, one of the local fly shops, has me tie flies for them now, and I tie flies for a lot of the guides in Oregon, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
Cool. Yeah, I was going to ask if you're tying commercially, or if you take custom orders right now, or what you're doing.
I wasn't, because of everything that was going on this year with getting married, and we bought this house. Mm-hmm. But before that, I was doing a lot of orders. There was times where I was getting booked up like 2 months in advance and stuff. So It's kind of nice that I haven't been taking as many orders lately.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I keep thinking that eventually I'll open things up and start doing more orders again. I really like the wet flies and the steelhead flies, so I think I'd focus more in like that area.
That's cool. Those are fun, man. I'm still learning, but that's kind of where I go to. I like tying, wet flies, crawdads, leeches, stuff like that. And
it's really easy. I was just joking with someone about this the other day, because I hate tying dry flies. It's really easy to tie a fly that goes underwater. It's really hard to tie a good fly that stays above the water.
Yeah, I really don't get into it. I haven't got into it at all yet. I just started kind of spinning some deer hair stuff for muddlers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And dry flies are intimidating, and I don't fish dries a lot, so I don't have that drive to make my own really yet. That's interesting.
Really like about muddlers, since you brought those up, I really like how when you're tying them yourself, they don't necessarily look like the ones you buy in the store. And everybody that gets into doing a lot of spinning deer hair, they all get like a very unique look to the head of their fly.
Totally.
Everybody kind of figures out what they like, and that's just how they like, either super sparse or really dense or mixing colors, or you know what I mean, trimming it really short or really long.
Yeah, I haven't
really
got into like I haven't even used like I haven't gone into using razor blades yet to like trim them up. I'm really just kind of snipping them and like kind of I guess they're a little rattier looking, they're kind of wild. But I'm just starting to do that stuff and it's fun. I'm having fun with it. So your first tie-in gig wasn't with Jonathan. What was it?
No, I was just tying on my own and tying for Caddis. Like I was doing some of the YouTube videos for them, and I still do some YouTube videos. I haven't taken as much time lately, but
yeah,
I was doing a lot of YouTube stuff. And then one day, Jonathan was talking about how he was swamped with orders, and he was thinking about bringing on people. And I was like, I would gladly come help and tie with you. And it was a really cool life experience. That man taught me a lot of really cool stuff, and it was fun to have that like social aspect. Like we'd all just sit on like FaceTime and tie flies and talk story, and it was really cool. It was a fun experience.
Did you go up to Alaska? Did you?
I didn't, but we did get to meet up in Washington for like 4 days and all fish together. That was really fun.
Rad, man.
We all kind of came, instead of everybody going to Alaska, we all came to Washington because that's where Joe Rudder and Jordan Ray were. So we went there and fished for steelhead. I got to watch Jonathan catch a steelhead. It was like his only steelhead he caught while he was down there.
Radical dude.
Cool. That man is so tall.
he looks like a big dude. I've besides for interviewing him, I did one of his I did a class with him before I interviewed him, and he seems like a big dude.
Yeah, he's so cool. He's a nice guy.
I saw you were out fishing. Was it today you were out fishing with another person I follow, Sculpin Army?
Yeah, Courtney. Yeah, me and him. Because I just moved out here, I hadn't done a float. It's from the Lieberg Dam down to basically my house. I hadn't done that section, and he'd done it, and he was just going to go swimming with his daughter and fish a little bit. So I was like, he brought it up. He's like, let's just all float. And I've floated it before. So he helped show me the run. So now I know the run. I just did it in my little one-man pontoon.
Yeah, man.
That way, if I hit anything, it wasn't a big deal.
Looked rad.
Yeah, it was super fun.
So yeah, you mentioned the videos that you did for Caddis Fly Shop. I don't know if you're still doing them. I've watched a lot of them. I probably watched the Town Run tutorial 100 times. Like I don't know what it is, but I can't make it look like the one in your video. But it's a sweet pattern.
That fly is a fly that Chris, the owner of Caddis, asked me to tie for them, and I'd never even heard of it. And the only thing I could find about it was the local paper and Bend did an article on it like 10 years ago. And I found that article and just found like this little tiny crappy picture of it and kind of just winged it. So at least whatever butchered variant that I put up on YouTube is like the Town Run, and it won't hopefully die from history, because I know that was a really popular fly at one point out here. You know how flies kind of come and go out of popularity, and a lot of old flies you just don't even know about anymore.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was going to ask if that's a pattern that you fish on the Mckenzie. No,
I don't even think I've ever swung that fly.
Really?
I just tied it for Caddis for a couple of years. I haven't even tied it in a couple of years. I bet you they'd probably like some more of those.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about the Mckenzie. I mean, that's the reason. That's the focus of this episode, and kind of the reason we set up the interview. You live right there, right? You live right on the Mckenzie.
Yeah, I live right on the Mckenzie.
Yeah, how'd you end up there? I heard the journey, but what was the most recent thing? Like, how'd you end up in
Oregon, or on the Mckenzie in general?
On this blueberry farm that you're at.
So my wife and I got married at the end of February, and when we got back, or even before then, I was like, so now we did this, I know you want to buy a house. She's like, yeah, we should wait until like summertime or fall or maybe next year. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then somehow we just like started looking for a house, and then we ended up with a realtor, and then she was on Zillow all the time, and then I was on Zillow, and eventually she saw this place, and this is the only house that we got to look at together because we work opposite schedules. So all the other houses we just got to see, and we're both like meh. But then we saw this place, and it was really cool, but we were like, there's no way we're going to get this house. It was like at the peak of everybody buying everything. And so she came out for an open house with her dad, and her dad was like, you should get this house. And she was like, I think you're right. And so she made the offer while I was working, and 2 weeks later they accepted our offer, and it ended up our house. I still can't, like, I'm looking out this window going, I can't believe this is ours.
Yeah. You guys seem stoked, and it looks super cool from what I've seen online. Looks
Super
rad.
cool. We have so many plans for it. We want to do a lot of farming, and we want to basically get rid of all the grass and make like a fairy wonderland in the front yard with maybe a little pond or something. I don't know.
Sweet.
We're gonna figure it out, but it's gonna change a lot from what it is now.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you have anything besides blueberries going.
Pretty much blueberries. We have blueberries, strawberries. I guess we have raspberries, tomatoes, kale, grapes. The place came with grapes too. I have a buttload of grapes.
Right on.
But yeah, the blueberries are definitely the main focus. It takes up like half our property.
Nice. Are you guys planning to do something with the blueberries? Is that something you're thinking about, or is it just a hobby and they're there?
Yeah, at this point, I think it's just a hobby. We don't want to do like a U-pick thing and having like strangers come on onto our property and get special insurance, and people hurt themselves and break things. We had friends and family come out and pick berries and stuff, and yeah, we'll figure it out. Maybe next year. It'd be nice if we could at least make up some of it, like cover the cost of maintenance on them. But we'll see. Maybe start selling them to the local farmers markets or something. We have to look into all that. Right now, we're pretty over adulting because we went from like getting married to buying a house. Now we're just and moving and dealing with learning this stuff. And yeah, we don't want to adult anymore. So next year we'll figure that out.
But you at least got like a bunch of like blueberry gifts, baked goods you can gift to friends and stuff like that.
Yeah. We have so many blueberries frozen in our freezer right now.
Like what made the Mckenzie River special to you? Was there a moment or like a day where like everything clicked with you? You're like, this place rules.
The Mckenzie, I think in general, anytime someone sees the Mckenzie, your mind is just blown.
Yeah.
Because the water, especially above, like when you go the upper Mckenzie up high, it's just like the bluest blue of an ocean you would see, but it's all freshwater and clear as a bell. It's like crazy beautiful how pretty the Mckenzie River is. And obviously a couple years ago we had a major fire out here and it burnt a lot of but before that happened it's just all green and trees, and it's just a peaceful, breathtaking river, and the fishing is amazing on it. You have steelhead, you have salmon, you have trout, whitefish. Whitefish are very underrated.
There's whitefish. I didn't know there was whitefish in there.
Oh yeah, so many whitefish. Whitefish, I guess, are an indicator species. If the whitefish population is healthy, that's a good indication that the river itself is healthy because they're more delicate than trout.
That's cool. I'm kind of mad at myself. I mean, I've only really been fly fishing for like 10 years and living in Northern California the whole time. So I'm not that far.
You aren't?
I really haven't. I don't think I had heard of it since before I talked to you, I hadn't heard of the Mckenzie. I mean, you think of all the Oregon steelhead rivers, and there's a lot, Rogue, Deschutes. I mean, you can go on forever. I don't know if that one just kind of got lost in the mix or something like that, because you make your bucket list of like, oh, I got to go here.
It's more of a salmon and trout river than it is a steelhead.
Okay.
The state says that there was never a wild run of steelhead on this river, but that doesn't make any sense because it connects to the Willamette, which connects to the Columbia, and the Columbia is such a huge, you know what I mean? There had to have been steelhead before that dam came in. So right now it's only hatchery fish for the most part on the Mckenzie. You'll bump into a wild one or what they call a misclipped one every once in a while, but the salmon and the trout definitely take the show. The red sides that are in the Mckenzie are just as beautiful as the Deschutes, in my opinion. I've fished both of them in the Metolius, which is another beautiful river, and that's like
another one. Yeah,
in the Deschutes, and that river is amazing.
Dude, I don't know where, but that's another one that I just recently heard about. Everybody was like, "Oh, you got to go, go there." So that's what thankfully this show's been doing, is introducing me to some new stuff and new people and new places that I got to go. Right,
dude. We have a bedroom open for you anytime, and I have a spot in my boat for you.
I am gonna take you up on that.
I know your children are young, so it's hard to get away, but you gotta forget to sneak away.
It's true, man. Thank you. Yeah, I want to make it up there. I don't fish that area enough for being where I live, and I know I have young kids and I've kind of been tied closer to home for like the last 5 years or so, but I'm gonna make a trip up there. So what are your favorite patterns to tie for the Mckenzie? Like, what are you fishing a lot? Like, what's the normal setup?
Today I was fishing like a little, like a Jerry French inspired sculpin pattern that I was throwing on my trout spay for just trout with Courtney, and
Cool.
that been really good. I love swinging flies. So if my ideal, like if I could just swing for trout or swing for steelhead all day, every day, I totally would.
Yeah.
But
I was gonna ask you what your preferred, your preferred fishing method is. I'm right there with you. It's so much fun, and the trout space stuff's super cool. I got a three weight 11-footer not too long ago that is super smooth with Scandi on it.
When you're like nymphing or dry fly fishing, you always have to be paying attention to something. But when you're swinging flies, you just like chuck it out there and you just let it do its thing, and you can like look up at, like I constantly was looking up at the sky or into the trees. Yeah. Like there's something just special about spay fishing that it's just different because you don't have to pay attention. The fish really does all the work. As long as you don't mess it up, you're fine.
Yeah, dude, we have a lot in common, man. It's exactly the way I feel about it. I want to be able to cast, and then like I definitely don't want to be staring at something, waiting for something to happen. I want to wander and see like a green heron, flying or something like that, and like kind of drift a little bit.
Just stop on a run, swing a fly for a little bit, go down to the next run, swing a fly,
and get excited when you get that surprise buzz,
positive reinforcement.
Yeah. Totally. Man, I had another question of why someone should make the Mckenzie a fishing destination, but I think we've already kind of answered that one.
It's just magical.
Yeah. So what 5 flies that you need to have in your box for the
Mckenzie?
Yeah.
I would say for dry flies, 5 flies total. Well, then I'm going to skip dry flies. I would say a woolly bugger, a handful of like pheasant tail wet flies, a couple sculpin patterns, and for nymphs, the 20-incher that I tie for caddis, and a mega prince. If you're just going to do bobber fishing, that those 2 flies underneath an indicator, and just pick any spot on the river and start fishing. You'll catch something.
Yeah, I've seen the 20-incher video. I'll have to link to that one in the notes too. That's a good one.
It's a real fly.
What about size? Like, are you fishing super small? Is it dependent on seasons or anything like?
I know that guys do, and there's probably going to be people that listen to this that will get mad about this. I never fish a nymph smaller than 14. Dry flies probably smaller than 14 or 12. Cool. I'm not a small fly type of person. If I can't see it on my own, I don't want to. I know they're super productive, and people really like fishing like size 22 blue wing olives, but that's just not the kind of fisherman. If they didn't want to take my size 12 nymph that won't buy them at Mach 12, I didn't really want to catch them anyway.
Yeah, I when I need little stuff like that, I trade streamers over to my buddy Steve. He ties me up some smaller nymphs.
Right? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, those small things, they're just not that much fun to fish. I know that people get into them and they think that they're fun to fish, but they just trick themselves because that's all the fish like on their river.
That's funny. Man, I'm watching you twist something up right now, and the thing that I'm watching the most that I'm appreciating is that you're using a hair clip to hold back these materials. It's a constant problem for me, and I have a couple little rigged things that I use too, and I don't know why I didn't take my wife's hair clip and throw it on there.
That's literally where that one came from.
Yeah, it's perfect. What are you tying up? What are you tying up right now?
I'm just tying some graboids for my trout swinging box because fall is coming soon. So I want to have some graboids in there. So talking about Jonathan Farmer.
Yeah, I thought that might have been some Kraken dub. You can see all the little squiggly legs popping out of there.
I have multiple bags in very specific colors of that, and I never let myself run out.
Yeah, it's great. It seems too like if I mention that to other people, like I don't know about people listening, but it seems like the folks I mentioned to haven't heard of that for some reason. Like, I don't know if it's.
I think the guy that does it just does it really small. I don't know if you've ever seen his website, but it's super simple.
Fly Tires Dungeon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that Jonathan sells some of it on his website as well. So his website's a little bit more new age compared to the Fly Tiger Dungeon website. But man, you can order stuff and it shows up.
Yeah.
He doesn't mess around.
Stuff's rad.
Yeah, I use it in a lot of shrimp patterns, and you can use it in like clousers and stuff for bodies, and it just gives a lot of wiggle to them. It's a super great material. I'm amazed that Hairline hasn't scooped them up yet. Yeah. I like to look at Hairline as like the Amazon of the fly tying world. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, yeah.
And I appreciate them.
I was going to ask you, are there any like local resources that people can check out as far as like conservation efforts for the Mckenzie? Is there a local Trout Unlimited chapter or anything like that I can link to?
There's 2 fly fishing clubs. One is Cascade Family Fly Fishers, and the other one is like the Mckenzie Fly Fishers Guild. That one is it leans more towards guides and old timers, and then the Fly Fisher Cascade Family Fly Fisher one, it does a lot of outreach stuff and local volunteer stuff for like the river. They both do a lot. They just focus their energy in different ways. So
cool. Yeah, I like to link to that kind of stuff if possible.
Yeah, they're both run by pretty old timers, so I don't know how internet they all are. They're both really good groups, and they try to do as much as they can locally.
Cool. You know, I ask all my guests about paranormal stories, and I want to ask you if you've had any, and if you're willing to share with me if you have anything weird.
I have never experienced anything along the lines of ghosts in my whole life, at least that I've noticed.
Paranormal covers it all, man. I mean,
I've had lots of weird things happen to me in my life, but it's all been from things that are living in the world.
Yeah, I hear that. I mean, but yeah, I mean, to me, I mean, the older I get, the more I read about this stuff, and I've read about, I'm a total couch conspiracy reader. And,
yeah, totally.
I think, I joke about it with my buddies that it all always comes back full circle. Everything's connected like that. But I kind of throw, anything UFO, Bigfoot, ghosts, anything weird under that paranormal
I would love
category now.
There was one time I was up on the north middle fork of the Willamette, out by this town called Oak Ridge up here. It's like way up in the boonies in the sticks. I was nowhere near humans, and I could have swore that I heard Sasquatch in the woods, and then I was in the river fishing, and it'd been a minute or two, and next thing I noticed, I saw a mountain lion or a cougar and her 2 little cubs walk out of the brush right in front of me on the bank. So I don't think it was Sasquatch, it was them, but I was still equally as terrified and got out of there.
Yeah, might be more terrifying if you think about it. Yeah,
she would actually eat me.
Right. Yeah, those are the scariest animal encounter videos.
Oh, dude. She was so peaceful, though. It was one of the most surreal moments. She just looked at me a couple times. Her kids looked at me a lot, but they just kept slowly walking through the woods, minding their own business. And I took it as a hint that it was time for me to go home, and the fish I was going to catch weren't worth it.
I kind of, to be honest, expect all you fishermen that are all over the place, deep in the woods, in remote rivers, to have more weird stuff happening.
Right.
But I haven't had a whole lot of luck with that question. I guess I hope that everybody does, but then again, they're usually scary stories, I guess. So maybe I don't. Maybe I'm happy that my guests aren't having paranormal stories.
I'm all about weird stuff. You bring it on, I'm down, but I just haven't had any of those type of things happen.
I haven't had much either. I mean, I've had synchronicity stuff that's kind of weird. I don't know, more than weird, I guess. It's just hard to explain even, but the closest thing I have is like a short UFO sighting myself, and I won't go into extreme detail with it because it's kind of boring, but I'll say that it was close enough to kind of be unmistakable that it was something weird. And my wife and I were walking our pug at the time, and it was like wildly changing shapes, like from like a thin straight vertical line to like a perfect circle, to like a classic disc shape, like UFO kind of thing. And it got close enough to us to where we were like, I don't know, I would say it was like 100 feet over the tree line near us or so. And as soon as we crossed under the tree line, it was gone and just disappeared. I didn't see it disappear. My wife saw it just blink out, though. It was a short thing, but it's super weird and it was, I want to say 15 years ago. So, I mean, totally sent me down reading about it forever. I still read about it a lot and very interested in the subject, hence why I'm asking everybody about it. I like talking about it.
You remember when we were kids how UFOs were so like, nah, they don't really exist. Only people that are easily fooled believe those things. Now, like the government even acknowledges that UFOs are a thing.
Yeah, dude, as somebody who's read about it for a long time, it's kind of a weird, it's a weird stage of this whole UFO community, as they call it. Like it's a weird time to be reading about it and be involved in. I don't know, I guess a little knowledgeable about the past of it. But you're totally right. I mean, besides for that, I mean, but being like a loon just for even entertainment, it was like at the same time we've kind of all the idea that's been there forever, pop culture wise, since the 50s, like the idea of aliens in a flying saucer coming to Earth from another planet has been kind of and implanted into pop culture from a long time ago. Weird to see it in the New York Times and talked about it on big talk shows and stuff. And
it's just part of like normal now. Like no one even freaks out about it anymore.
Yeah, super fun. And because I don't believe the news, it's like, how am I supposed to believe what's happening at the same time? Like super interested in it. I don't know.
Right. The world is a crazy place nowadays.
Sure is, man. It's getting weirder and weirder.
Hence the reason we moved to the country.
It's sounding better and better, dude. Let me tell you. I promise you I'm going to make it up there sooner than later. When's the best time to come up to the Mckenzie and fish? What's the prime window?
Well, summer is amazing because like I'm wearing my wet wading pants right now. Like that's awesome. But there's something just really cool about the wintertime up here when it's rainy and it's cold and you go out in the water. Like summer flows on the Mckenzie are like 2,000.
Okay.
And when you get the winter flows, they're like that 4 to 5, little over 5,000 flow.
Oh yeah.
Those are like the magical days. You don't see a single soul on the water and you're catching just all wild fish because they haven't thrown any hatchery in any of the sections. Yeah, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's 100
out there jacket.
Yeah, dude, it's 105 here in Sacramento today. And well, I guess it's not 105, it's about 100. But it started raining. We got like a little weird summer rain. And I was sitting out on the patio with my son. My son comes up to me and goes, Dad, you like the rain? I'm like, I don't hate it. I told him I like fishing in the rain, and I do. Like fishing in the rain, like fishing in the snow.
Yep. There's something special about it.
Yeah, for sure, man. And wet wading's fun too. I love summer fishing. That's great. But I think if I had to pick just one, I'd be out there in the cold. There's less people.
My wife sent me this really interesting thing. She's Jewish, and she sent me this really interesting thing on TikTok that kind of relates back to your son asking about the water thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we all need water for life. We all know that. But my wife sent me this thing. What if water is God? Because we need the water. The water gives everything life. You know what I mean? Everything. And then you could poison the water and make that like hell. And every culture has a different view of God. And they also treat water as a God. I don't know. It's just really, I'll have to send it to you on
That
Instagram.
is cool.
It was really interesting.
That's cool, dude. I mean, have you
Way more interesting than anything religious I've ever thought.
Right? Yeah. There's a lot of interesting stuff there actually, and I like reading on those subjects. There's a lot there to pick out if you can wade through the nonsense, right? And
the propaganda of it all.
yeah, totally. And speaking deeper on that water thing, you reminded me. I don't know if you've ever seen these experiments that I forget what the name of the scientist was. He did these experiments with water and feelings, right? Where I think it was like he was playing audio of people arguing to where like a dish of water, and close. I want to say they were video, like through a microscope, videotaping the reaction the water had to this type of stimulation, and the differences between loving affirmation, violent arguments and things like that were apparent in like the composition of the molecules of the water or something that deep. I'll link to that in the show notes too, and if you're interested, I'll send it to you if you haven't seen it. But
I love stuff like that.
Yeah, me too, man. And it's mind blowing too because of how much of our bodies are made up of water, how much of the world's made up of water, just like you're talking about, how much of an impact positivity and
Yeah, it's really, I love nature, and I think nature was the original religion. Just everything about survival depended on nature being nice to you that day instead of killing you.
Yeah, dude, that's a perfect way to wrap this up, Jim. I love that, and I thank you for coming on the show, and thanks for providing me some encouragement when I was just getting started with this. Early on, I started talking to you as soon as I started launching these episodes, and it meant a lot for me for you to be there. And I want to come fish with you. I can be a farmer. I'll eat your blueberries and whatever else you got growing up there. And like I said, I'm not that far from you, so I'm going to make it happen.
If the wife and the kids want to come up, we can always set up a tent in the yard.
Oh man,
old enough to enjoy. And peak blueberry season is like beginning of August when the weather is perfect for camping.
Sweet, dude.
I would love to meet you in person and shake your hand and take you down the river sometime.
Likewise, man. I would love to do it. And I wish you and your family the best this year, dude.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sure we'll be talking again soon.
Anytime.
Okay, I think I made a new buddy. Turns out Jim and I have a lot in common, and it was a pleasure to talk to him. I feel like we didn't get super deep into fly tying or his home river, and that's going to happen in a lot of my interviews. In fact, I'm glad we have a bunch more to talk about, because that means I'll have him back on the program in the future. Getting myself to the Mckenzie is way up there on my fishing destination travel list now. I can't wait to drive to Eugene and fish with Jim. We'll have blueberries for every meal and catch thousands of fish on flies we tied together while laughing at each other's jokes. Maybe I'll even hit the Klamath on my way up there. My monologue full of ridiculous facts about the Mckenzie was a direct result of the almost constant influx of emails and direct messages I get that all say something along the lines of, "You never actually provide any fly tying knowledge on your dumb show." Yeah, well, I went out of my way to write a mostly fictional episode because I can't help but do what I'm told not to do. I'm sorry, I can't stop lying. I just wanted to have fun writing something different, and I've only received nice emails and messages from my new podcast friends. I love getting electronic mail. Say hello at ssftpodcast@gmail.com. You know what I don't love? Editing a podcast. It's like sitting on the bank untangling a knotted up leader that only gets more tangled the longer you try. It's like snapping your thread right before you finish spinning up a fancy, tedious composite loop over and over again. But while listening to your own voice echoing in your brain, popping your P's and slurping and breathing heavy and slurring and mispronouncing simple words. It'll all be worth it though, because someday I'll force you all to fast forward through so many advertisements for boner pills and mattresses and sunglasses that I'll be as rich as a pig, a big fat money hog. I'll hire a room full of robot audio editors to do my dirty work while I sit in my Cal Neva resort home. I'll relax in luxury, making up stupid myths about places I've never been and talk into a very expensive microphone atop a throne made of hardy reels while a servant feeds me the cereal of my choice and scrolls through TikTok for me.
Nothing like it.
Thank you in advance to all my loyal listeners for supporting my future lavish lifestyle. If you would actually like to support this program, I'm digitally panhandling via Cashapp in the link in my show notes that says "Buy me a jar of power bait."
Power bait. The smelliest bunch of goop you can get in one of those little jar things that it comes in. What is this stuff? Who knows? Who cares?
Get it? This is a fly tying podcast, and I'm asking for money to buy scented dough bait. I'm just making it jokey because it feels dirty to ask for money. That doesn't mean I don't want your money though, so hit that button and send it to me right now before it's too late. Or you would probably feel better about yourself by donating to one of these wonderful organizations. The Mckenzie River Trust is a non-profit land trust formed in 1989 to protect critical habitats and scenic lands in the Mckenzie Basin. Since 2000, their service area has included the watersheds of the Long Tom, Upper Willamette, coast and middle forks of the Willamette, Umpqua, Siuslaw, and coastal streams and lakes from Reedsport to Yakuts. In 2021, they expanded their coastal services area to stretch from Reedsport north to Lincoln City and opened their first field office in Newport. Throughout their history, they've partnered with caring landowners, members, foundations, and partner organizations to protect forever land and water in Western Oregon. By contributing to the Mckenzie River Trust, your donation will go directly towards preserving the quality of drinking water, protecting special lands from harmful development, restoring critical habitat for endangered species, planting thousands of trees that clean the air, and securing land and water for fish, wildlife, plants, and people. Learn more at McKenzieRiver.org. Cast Hope is a nonprofit organization positively impacting kids and their mentors in California and Western Nevada through free fly fishing and outdoor experiences. Through their program, clients build mentoring relationships, fly fishing skills, outdoor knowledge, sustainable practices, and personal values. Cast Hope's gift of the outdoors empowers each mentoring pair to grow closer as they participate in healthy hobbies together. Check them out at casthope.org and whichever social network you like to use. Wild Steelheaders United was established to educate and mobilize the numerous wild steelhead advocates. It's a place where anglers can become more informed about wild steelhead biology and ecology, keep abreast of policy issues, and learn about Trout Unlimited's conservation work. As demonstrated by history, it's certainly possible to rally conservation-minded steelhead anglers to weigh in on specific management decisions that threaten to eliminate something they value. But there is no precedent for advancing a proactive, sustainable policy agenda at scale through purely volunteer efforts. Chances of conservation success are greatest if we have the backing of as many individuals as possible across all the Pacific states. This is why Wild Steelheaders United is critical. Visit wildsteelheaders.org for more info.
This episode of the Secret Society of Fly Tyers is brought to you by Eggfest, the most brutal fest in hardcore music. Eggfest is taking place next Thursday at the Old Fairgrounds, and it'll feature performances by Pig Destroyer, Hog Mutilator, Dignity Witch, The Flying Michaels, Bane, Tiny Beef, Cursed Broth, Bone Hog, Hog Pig, and many other really good bands. Get your 6-day passes at www.eggfreakmusicfestival2019.gov before they sell out and you can't go and everybody makes fun of you forever. Please note that this is not a real advertisement, and the company, brand, entity, or product mentioned in the preceding ad in no way endorses, agrees with, or knows about this podcast.